Greetings and welcome to the What's Right show. I, Sam Mirejovsky, am Nevada's favorite recovering Californian. Pleased to be here this July 4th Eve. Correct, day before the 4th of July holiday. My favorite time of year, my absolute favorite day of the year. Frankly, I love celebrating the birth of the country. I, am an American patriot. And I thought maybe we could talk a little bit about this today, given that I will not be here tomorrow nor Monday. I'll be taking the 4 days off for the holidays. So, just quickly, by the way, sam@whatsrightshow.com. That is my email. And, of course, on Twitter, now called X, where you ought to be as well. If you do not have an account, it's free. Sign up, set it up. Don't have to post. You can just follow people that you like. And hopefully that includes me. So that you can find me there on X at What's Right Sam, at What's Right Sam. One word. Okay. All right. So you saw, we went over this the other day, but I'm just going to bring it up because it's astonishing. The recent polling, the Gallup poll, where they asked Americans, are you extremely proud, very proud, moderately proud, or only a little proud, or not proud at all to be an American? That's it, right? I mean, that was the question. And they found that, well, if you add together the extremely proud or very proud, so the folks that are feeling the higher levels of patriotism, love of country, etc., Republicans came in at 92%. It's high. But it's also what you'd kind of expect for Americans generally. They didn't ask, how proud are you of Donald Trump? How proud are you of the U.S. government? They asked about the country. So the Democrats, by comparison and contrast, came in at an abysmal 36. Basically, only about a third of self-identifying Democrats could themselves claim in the affirmative that they're proud to be American. Now, I'm thinking a lot about this, and especially the 4th coming up. I'm thinking to myself, why is it that when we as conservatives are faced with, for example, 4 years of Biden or 8 years of Obama, and before that, the crazy Clinton years, we obviously are repulsed by our government. We don't like what's happening in the White House. We have a president who is representing the country, traveling around the world, and we have a little bit of vomit that is coming up every time we have a look at it. But at the same time, we as conservatives are able to be absolutely patriotic and delighted to be Americans. We're, I'm sitting here in the Czech Republic. Can I tell you how many times I have been abroad? I've been somewhere, maybe here, during Biden, during Obama. People would ask me, oh, God, what is going on? What is this Biden guy? My goodness, he can't even put a sentence together. And never did it cross my mind. I was, I'm just embarrassed to be an American. My response is always, I'm embarrassed for America that we've got this, non compos mentis auto pen president. That's it. When we protest, when conservatives are upset, we show up with American flags. When they protest, they come out with all sorts of other flags, not American flags. They come out with Mexican flags. They come out with trans flags. They come out with all sorts of banners, some of them with writing in Arabic supporting Hamas and other terrorist organizations. And they don't just come with flags. Sometimes they come with hammers. They come with torches. They come with cinder blocks. They come ready to destroy cities, end lives even, and wreak damage wherever they go. You know, I is somewhere in this, right? We recovering here from the recent riots in LA, which a lot of people here are asking me about. Gosh, it seems like things are really going badly in America. And my answer is, well, they're going badly from a side of the country, from a party in the country that thought they had it all sewed up. And they've discovered that the will of the people cannot be stopped. And so what you are seeing is a very dangerous political movement, which I think the new Democratic Party is. I think it is a dangerous ideology. I think you can see now that the mask is coming off, that it really is about socialism. It really is about the kind of radicalism that they have so long denied any affiliation or affection for, affinity to and affection for. The fact that the mask is coming off now and the Democrats are revealing themselves to be the extremists that we always suspected them to be, and at the same time, instead of putting a lid on violence that they spent 4 years decrying January 6th, they are supporting it. They're financially, obviously, providing assistance to it. And at the end of the day, behind it all is, it's really not about America. For a leftist, and this is when we talk about globalists, right? We talk about these open borders people. For the open borders crowd, for the globalist crowd, for the international socialists of the world, read the Democratic Socialists of America. The A there is a little perplexing to me, right? What does it mean actually to have an open border? For us, obviously, we experienced it for 4 years under Biden, overrun with maybe 25 to 30 illegal immigrants in 4 years' time. But what does it really mean? It means that there is not a nation. It means there is not a country. And it is one of many attacks on American sovereignty by a group of people that feel, and you can see this in the research, that feel no real care for or love for the United States. In fact, what is it that leftists do to the curriculum when they're not indoctrinating our kids on subjects of transsexual nature? They spend the rest of the time denigrating our founding fathers, denouncing the country, rejecting any moral high ground that, of course, I strongly believe America has. When you look within the greater historical context of what has happened, particularly in the last, let's say, 100 years, in the 20th century, the United States was a country beginning at the end of the 19th century that the world wanted to come to. People braved voyages across volatile oceans, perilous journeys, leaving behind everything they had and knew, coming to America with nothing, starting at the absolute bottom and working their way up and realizing the great American dream. When we talk about welcoming immigrants, by the way, that was the patriotic way of doing it. Immigrants came here. They learned English. They integrated. They kept their culture. They kept their food. They certainly brought that into American society. And American society, being what it is, embraced this. We were a melting pot, but fundamentally, we got together as a country. We put up American flags, and immigrants that I know, that I grew up with, that surrounded my parents and their immigrant community were some of the most patriotic Americans I have ever known. The immigrants that the left wants a little bit like the 25 million that came in over the last 4 years, seems to me that these are the folks that come in waving the flags of their countries of origin. And the left likes that because these are the people that then come into the country and begin to erase what is an American identity. Previous generations of immigrants cloaked themselves in this American identity. They themselves became American. I look at this Democratic Socialist mayor candidate in New York City, became a citizen a few years back, I think in 2016. Anyway, he became an American citizen. But when you hear him talk, he never became an American. To me, that's the fundamental difference. And I want us to be aware of this as we go into the 4th of July holiday, because one of the most evil things that the left tells us or says about us and me, they say it about me all the time, that we're anti-immigrant. We're not anti-immigrant. We're anti-occupiers. We want people to come here, to integrate, to embrace, to love, and to prosper. But the left wants to erase our border, erase our traditions, erase our history, tear down our statues, and burn what's left of our great American cities. And they do it because deep down inside, they hate this country. And that's the difference between us and them. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840 KXNT. Be right back in a moment.
I'm the best.
Personal injury law has been the same for a long time.
The best.
Big egos, greed, and sleazy schemes. We've had enough. Welcome to Sam and Ash, the new standard for personal injury law, where things are done the right way, because you deserve a team that delivers real support and results. When you have both, your whole world can change. Sam and Ash Injury Law, because you deserve what's right.
Hi, welcome back. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840 KXNT. Happy day before July the 4th. I hope everybody out there has a safe and glorious July 4th weekend. I hope there are lots of fireworks. I also hope you're not my dog. Poor Rudy. Man, you know what? Someone in the valley, somewhere, miles away, could set off one firecracker and my dog loses his mind. I feel so bad for him. Oh, my gosh. Anyway, so we all enjoy the 4th of July holiday, save for little Rudy. So, this conversation, if you're just tuning in, sort of examining the lack of patriotism with our friends on the left, and of course, also framing the context for their opposition to what's being done about illegal immigration, right? Everybody's screaming about this on the left. And they're screaming about it, saying that we conservatives are anti-immigrant. Nothing is further from the truth. I think there's two things here that matter to us. One, we want people to come into this country and do it the right way and do it legally. And I believe, as a matter of policy, and I actually, quite honestly, I have my differences with some Republicans over the years. I think we should have more legal immigrants come to the country. Okay, that ought to happen. But we want people to be legal. Okay, and the second thing is we want people to come here and to love America. And I think there is a huge connection. I think it's causal, but I think the people that come into this country and love America are more likely to be independent and successful. And it actually could go the other way. I think that the people that are independent and successful are more likely to love America. Now, the left does not want independently successful American, future American patriots. to be lining up at our door. You have to think that there is a reason why the left, Biden, the administration, during whoever was running the Biden presidency, literally went through every piggy bank that was at the disposal of the executive branch of government and took whatever money was there, including FEMA money that later was not available for Americans impacted by hurricanes and wildfires, and gave away gobs of cash to support migrants who are coming into the country. Now, here's the multi-billion-dollar question to ask is, if these people want to be here so bad, and if this is labor that we supposedly need, because we're always told, hey, Sam, who's going to do the dirty jobs? Hey, Sam, who's going to clean the houses? Hey, Sam, here in Vegas, who's going to go and go through these hotel rooms and launder the sheets? I mean, where do you think these people come? Okay, all right. So they're all coming here to work. I hear you. So then why were we giving people tens of thousands of dollars a month in public support? Why were we putting people up in 4-star hotels? Why were we giving people basically unlimited EBT cards to buy food, groceries? This is not a benefit, okay? When the Irish and the Italians and the Germans were showing up to Ellis Island and lining up to file through line to be humiliated, okay, and examined, medically certified and questioned and vetted, and oftentimes detained before they were admitted into the United States. And by the way, after enduring all of that, right, were these people given the equivalent, right, in financial support and benefits, public benefits? There's, okay, you're here, you're allowed to stay, you're allowed to work. Now go work or die, right? Now these communities, of course, banded together and helped, out family members and friends, and there were networks of immigrants, some that had been here a little bit longer, and things like that. There's some tremendous stories, of course, that have been written about this, but it was not, people didn't come here to be on the welfare, okay? They came here because they wanted to be in America, because America was objectively better than the S-hole country that they were coming from. Things were not good let's say, in 1890 in Sicily, okay? Not a lot of opportunity. Now, my problem here, just as an American patriot and as the son of immigrants who didn't come in 1890, obviously came in the 70s to the U.S., but came for very similar reasons, similar motivations. America was the shining city on the hill. It was a beacon of freedom, of liberty, and of opportunity. My parents came here. They didn't get a handout. Nobody paid them money. Nobody handed them $30,000 a month. It took my parents, I think, decades to even see that kind of money in one place at one time. You have no idea how insulting it was at the time to legal immigrants who did it the right way, the hard way, etc., came to this country, never got public support, scraped by, learned the language, worked their way up to watch the government of Joe Biden hand people money for doing nothing, all because they wanted political power. And they wanted the kind of immigrants in this country who would be dependent on the government. That is truly objectionable. Now, this is the problem with radio here. I'm up against another break, but I'm telling. So this, by the way, this is one of the critical explanations of what's going on, behind the scenes in this enormous Democrat opposition to the big bill that's going through DC and the Medicare cuts. Everything I explain here in a minute. I'm just out of time. Unfortunately, be back in just a couple of minutes. Hang tight, folks. I'll get to this. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840 KXNT. Greetings, friends, and welcome to the What's Right Show, your place for common sense conservatism, Monday through Friday, 1 to 3 p.m., here on News Talk 840 KXNT. Yes. Well, email, let's get to that, sam@whatsrightshow.com. Twitter, X, as it is now known, @whatsrightsam. So the big, beautiful bill, this has been a process and a half. And the part about that I want to get to, you're going to hear so much about this. You already have all of the opposition to Medicare, the Medicare cuts. Do you know all that the Republicans are trying to do with this? The thing that they're doing is, number one, saying if you're in this country illegally, okay, you don't get Medicare. If you're an illegal immigrant, you're here, you're not a legal resident of the U.S., you don't get Medicare. Shocking. I mean, California is, by the way, side note, you hear all this, chirping from Gavin Newsom left and right about this. California is going bankrupt because they're giving away the farm to illegals. And these freaking people coming into California, right? They're robbing, producing legal folks that are in the country, building businesses, absolutely robbing them blind. Income tax, corporate tax, payroll tax, everything they do, everything is taxed and regulated. Their gas tax, everything's taxed. And then on top of it, they just give that money away to people that don't even belong in the state because they are a base of political support for the Democratic Party. They vote in state elections, and they provide the numbers necessary for blue districts to maintain their U.S. representative. So if we were actually to fund ICE, side note, I'm convinced that if you gave ICE, 3.5 more years to rip through downtown LA, the Democrats might actually lose their base of power in California. It could happen, but I digress. So at any rate, the fight over Medicare, right? Don't give it to illegals. And then what's the other thing? Oh, a work requirement. Are you able-bodied? If yes, you don't get to just sit on your rumpus and not work. If you're working age and you've got 2 legs, 2 arms, and are reasonably able to do something, then you've got to go do it. It is absolutely wild to me. The welfare state is the single most destructive thing that America ever did to itself. No foreign enemy, no adversary externally could have done to America what we did to ourselves, and we have the Democratic Party to blame for it. It has decimated us because the enemy of greatness, okay, is making enough of society believe that they can just get by doing nothing and living off of free money, which of course is not free. That is money that is being taken out of the productive part of society. It's coming from someplace, or it is being borrowed. The states can't do that very well, but the U.S. government, of course, can. Is being borrowed or printed, and either debt or adding currency into circulation. Both of those makes everyone else poorer. It's astonishing to me. It wasn't, by the way, that long ago that Bill Clinton was putting work requirements in for welfare reform. I mean, it's just not wild stuff. But here's some of the pronouncements from the rabid, angry Democrats talking about the bill. Here is Representative Brittany Peterson, Democrat, Colorado, voting against the budget proposal. This was last night. So just, get a little flavor of this.
Hi, everybody. I lost my voice. We were forced back here. Took a red-eye flight. Haven't slept. We're here being forced back to vote on this disastrous budget proposal that is going to decimate our rural hospitals, healthcare that families, millions of families across the United States rely on, and increase costs for all of us for the private insurance market when we have this much uncompensated care. It's hard to hold back the tears with how bad this bill really is, the impact that it will make in Colorado and especially in rural Colorado. So I will keep you updated, but right now we have 2 people who are likely going to vote no. We just need 2 more. Your voices matter, and reaching out and telling your stories makes a difference. So thank you for tuning in, for fighting back, and I will keep you updated.
Yeah, this, by the way, is nonsense. There's a provision in the bill, the latest version, that still needs to be kind of reconciled in with the Senate's, but it's basically saying that there's benefit for and there's money set aside for these rural hospitals. They're just not going to reimburse hospitals anywhere for illegal immigrants. That's it. Now, I guess if your business model is that you rely completely on illegal immigrants to operate, then we got a problem, right? Because your business plan cannot be siphoning money off the federal government, read you and I, the taxpayers, and thinking that's acceptable. These people are breaking the law, and they're taking public benefits, and we're allowing it. It's absurd. Representative Pramila Jayapal, Democrat, Washington, says people are coming to her to sob. They're sobbing.
I just can't emphasize how, I'm getting calls, and in the airports, people come up to me when they recognize me, and they're sobbing on my shoulder because they know that so many people, whether it's people who are delivering babies, 60% of births in Mike Johnson's home state of Louisiana paid for by Medicaid, or whether it's, seniors in nursing homes, or whether it's folks with disabilities, those are the people that are going to be so incredibly hurt by this cruel betrayal of a bill.
People are sobbing on her shoulder, coming up to her at the airport. I'll take things that never happened for $500, please. Wow. Now they're pulling out all the stops, all the theatrics, all the waterworks, because this, I'm convinced of it, this push to get to remove the incentives for illegal immigrants is as terrible for the Democratic Party as the destruction of USAID. Remember, this was great. Paul Begala, who was a key Clinton stooge back in the day, and used to be, honestly, Robbie, Paul was like a, old school Democrat, the kind that don't exist anymore. And here he is going at it with Scott Jennings on CNN. This was a couple days ago, but I've got it here because it's just they started arguing about the work requirements to the Medicare, the funding. You had to have work requirements, and of course Jennings reminds him that again under Clinton things were a little bit different, almost one might say Trumpian.
Also, there's something in the Republican DNA. Okay, if you're a Republican Congress, you lie awake at night, unable to sleep, worried that somewhere, someone who's a working person is getting health care. This will be the biggest cut in Medicaid in American history. Medicaid's very popular. By the way, Republicans carried people on Medicaid. They won their votes. And this is what gets me. Smart politicians reward people who vote for them. Great politicians reach out to people who didn't vote for them and bring them in. But stupid politicians punish their voters. This bill is a political suicide note for the Republican Party. Last time they tried this, the Democrats won 41 House seats after Trump's first midterm. They'll exceed that this time. 489 days. They'll do better than 41 seats. This is absolute death knell for the House Republicans. Maybe Senate, too.
I should have started my remarks by thanking you, because it was President Bill Clinton in the 90s that thought of work requirements for Medicaid.
But two-thirds of people on Medicaid already work.
Which is all we're doing here.
They already do it. They already do it. We did it.
If you want to get up and go to work, you're going to get your Medicaid. And if you're an illegal alien, you're not going to get your Medicaid. Everybody else is going to be fine.
14 million
generational
people.
welfare reform built on your all's ideas. So I thank you. I sincerely thank you.
In Kentucky, which I love. I'm a Kentucky colonel. You're a Kentucky citizen, but I'm a colonel in Kentucky.
I'm also a colonel.
I love your comment. Love it.
Paul Begala says that 2/3 of people on Medicare already work. Then what's the big deal? The way it's written is, are you able to work? Yes or no? Are you working age? If you're, for example, on Social Security, then you're exempt. Seems pretty logical to me. Or the big problem here is that a lot of people in the country who are illegal are on Medicare. This is not this is not good for the Democrats. Now, what the Democrats are doing right now is demagoguing and scaring people. And this is why, more than ever, this bill has to get through and done, because let me say this. Because if it does become law, then what will occur is people will realize that what the Democrats were saying wasn't true. The Dems right now are pulling out all the stops to scuttle this, because why? They want to have it be scuttled and then to run next year in the midterms on the thing that, look what we stopped. The Republicans, Trump tried to take away your Medicare. And there are just enough people who will buy that. But it's all smoke and mirrors. It's all deceptive. Well, there's the kind of voters out there that are a little bit batty that will take it, Robbie. I mean, they will. They'll believe it. Trust me. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840 KXNT. Back in a moment. Don't go anywhere. The What's Right Show is brought to you by Sam and Ash Injury Law. In a crash, call Sam and Ash 702-820-1234, because you deserve what's right. Okay, I don't think she's a Trump voter. You're right about that, Robbie. But this is indicative of the kind of people out there who have absolutely lost their minds over the budget debate. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840 KXNT. Greetings, friends. Sam@whatsrightshow.com is my email. So there are all sorts of rants circulating on the internet. And side note, I don't know when this started to be a thing for people to film themselves on their phones and publish for the world to see them having an emotional breakdown. The world I was raised in, you kept your emotional breakdowns to yourself. And then, if you did break down in tears or get into a fit of rage, you tried to do it somewhere where no one would see it, would never talk about it. And hell, you would never talk about it because it's embarrassing as all heck. Anyway, this lady's old enough to know better, but I'm just submitting to you exhibit one of many of Democrats Gone Wild.
Well, you just couldn't call, could you, Magus? You just couldn't help out a few thousand or million people who are going to go hungry and are going to live in the streets. Thanks, MAGA. Thanks a whole hell of a lot. Because most of the damn people live in your states.
Thanks a lot, MAGAs. We should start using that here on the show, Robbie. MAGAs. I kind of like it as just in a singular too, not just MAGAs, but MAGAs. It's like this. The whole internet today, it's just flooded with it. I'm not, don't shoot the messenger. I'm just telling you what I'm seeing. And is it weird? Yeah, it's weird. But okay, but the reason I'm bringing this up is Republicans had to get this done, because if the Democrats were able to have run on, we defeated it. We defeated it. If in 2026 they can run on that plan, it's going to be a bad day for Republicans. Republicans have to have the threat of Medicare disappearing, in the rearview mirror. Well, of course it's histrionics. Come on, I mean, do you know anybody on Social Security that lost their Social Security because of Elon Musk? Come on. It's just a new day, new meltdown. New day, new crisis, new invented, fear-mongering. But it's all designed to scare the bejesus out of people so that they, go to the polls, and it's a must-win for the Democrats. I mean, the primaries this is going to be the biggest, opportunity the Democrats have to put the brakes on the Trump agenda. And this is why all of the Republican grandstanders now, even though I have sympathy to their positions, are on my last nerve. Because everything is at stake. We will never have another Trump. I don't think we will have another Trump in my lifetime. And I don't know that my children or grandchildren can afford to wait for another Trump. If this Trump that we have, we'll call him our bird in hand. If this Trump that we have now here for 3.5 years, still he's going to be president, and he has the resolve, the libs pissed him off something fierce. And this Trump is on the freaking warpath, and he is in there. He is not giving a rat's rear end, and he's a honey badger, letting ice loose, doing everything, going after the trans crap on the kids and women's sport, doing it all. And the Democrats are like just dying from this, okay? And my point is, in the middle of this, we're going to go, excuse me, the budget deficit. No, it's a no for me. It's the budget deficit. That's what they. Ah! And this is where I'm a pragmatist. Remember when Rush would always tell us that he was the mayor of Realville? He'd say, "Listen, folks, I'm telling you how it is. I'm the mayor of Realville. Like, this is, it's not fantasy land." And these guys need to become adults. These Republicans with their scruples. As incredibly awesome as our founding fathers were, it is a two-party system. Whenever a third party has come along, it has messed things up something fierce, so don't go there. It's a two-party system, and you have a majority or you don't. And if you have a majority like we do, if you have it by a few votes, then it's never going to be perfect. There will always be a problem. There's always some issue that that needs to get sorted out. Now, the reason I'm talking about this, again, I want to come back to the difference between us and them. Obviously, I believe very strongly, and the recent Gallup polling shows just the enormous divide between conservatives, well, Republicans, self-reporting Republicans, self-identifying Republicans, and Democrats, and how they feel about their country. And one of the, I think, when you really strip it down, and the differences, key differences between Republicans and Democrats, is that Democrats really want dependency. And dependency and the love of what the United States is are not compatible. Because when you look at American history and American exceptionalism, what you have here is a country that was created, founded by mavericks, by self-actualizing people. Everywhere through our country's birth and early development, an eventual, burst onto the world scene was the result of great men, okay, and women, don't get me, I'm using it gender neutral, great men doing great things. These were people who were, and again, many of them were immigrants or kids of immigrants that came to the U.S. for the opportunity to do great things, to achieve great things. And, I think that's probably one of the reasons that the left wants to wipe all that history out of our books, denigrates these great men, calls them robber barons, right? Remember that in school? Robber barons. These were robber barons. No, these were people that literally built New York. Shut the heck up. No, they'd rather fill the country with a bunch of people that want to immediately go on Medicare. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840 KXNT. Back after the top of the hour. Don't go anywhere. More of the What's Right show up next. Greetings, friends. Welcome to the What's Right show. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840 KXNT. Yes. One day before July the 4th, yes, my favorite holiday. Great always to celebrate it. Although this time I am celebrating it on, well, a different continent. Yeah, I'm in the Czech Republic, still in Prague. Yes, I'll be here through next week, it looks like. And I will be off tomorrow and Monday, just a heads up. So, but back on Tuesday, don't worry. We'll catch up on everything then. I'm just going over this, I guess the connection between a lack of patriotism and let's put it this way, the lack of the patriotism and self-reliance. There we go. If you look at a chart of Republicans versus Democrats being patriotic, proud of their country versus not being proud of their country, right? And then you look also at the attitudes of the average Democrat, average Republican on things like public support. It boggles my mind, right? It's one thing, I guess, to take care of Americans who are already in the country. But can you imagine being part of a party that wants to give people benefits before they are even legally in the country? And incidentally, over the years, Democrats didn't used to be this way. This is a new thing. Here's a little snippet of a few Democrats: Clinton in 96, Gore in 96, Biden in 96, Clinton in 2012, Obama in 2015, all talking about work requirements for welfare, something today in 2025 every Democrat is crying about, that Republicans, how dare they want to put a work requirement into Medicare spending. It's astonishing. Here's the people I was talking about.
Work is the meaning of what this country is all about. From now on, our nation's answer to this great social challenge will no longer be a never-ending cycle of welfare. It will be the dignity, the power, and the ethic of work. Today we are taking an historic chance to make welfare what it was meant to be, a second chance, not a way of life. This bill will help people to go to work so they can stop drawing a welfare check and start drawing a paycheck. It is now clearly better to go to work than to stay on welfare.
For too many, welfare has been a way of life. For too long, it has condemned too many on welfare to a lifetime at the margins of our society. Today, we start to change all that.
Anyone who wants to receive welfare must sign an individual responsibility contract so that they are forced to agree up front to the conditions placed on receiving the benefit, and so that they will have a plan from day one on how to get themselves off of welfare, put them to work, and make them want to go to work and make it reasonable for them to go to work. There'll be mandatory work requirement for anyone receiving welfare.
They actually have charged and run ads saying that President Obama wants to weaken the work requirements in the welfare reform bill I signed that moved millions of people from welfare to work. Oh, wait, the requirement was for more work, not less. I am telling you, the claim that President Obama weakened welfare reform's work requirement is just not true.
The best anti-poverty program is a job, which confers not just income, but structure and dignity.
Who are these people? They sound like Trump. But the new Democratic Party, and again, right, this is an interesting note. Let me just pull up that chart again. Robbie, let's put it up on the screen here. Those of you watching the Sam Cam can see this pride in being an American chart by political party from 2001 to 2025. So this would be from the George Bush era through present. Well, look at this. Look at Democrats. Look at how you can see on the chart here that Democrats were at one point not exactly as high as proud as Republicans, but close to. Where did it begin to crater? Actually under Obama, because Obama did, in spite of the lies here by Bill Clinton, did weaken those work requirements. And it turns out that you don't have pride in your country. Hell, you don't even have pride in yourself if you are either one, a taker of welfare, or two, a person whose entire political worldview is to just give people endlessly free stuff that, by the way, you don't have to pay for because you don't take care of that. You're just going to soak the rich, make the billionaires pay. We're no longer a country in the eyes of the Democrats. We're no longer the America founded by Washington, by Jefferson, by Benjamin Franklin. We're not that country. We're the country of that international workers of the world unite, calling all communists. What do we need borders for? What do we need the pesky American flag? Hell, nowadays you fly the American flag and you're presumed to be some right-wing wackadoodle. You had people at the FBI. Remember when they had all their little charts? They published the charts of extremist symbols. And they actually, in one iteration of the chart, had the American flag as indicative of right-wing groups. Okay, be careful, if you see a car that has a "Don't Tread on Me" flag, those are dangerous radicals. But, if they've got an American flag, could also be a radical too. Loving this country all of a sudden became a dirty word. Patriotism, dirty word, right? Love of country became a thing to be loathed. So I don't know. This is food for thought. Perhaps Democrats used to be built a little bit differently. I think America was built a little bit differently. I think the Democrats always had a pernicious plan to corrupt us with the welfare state, starting with LBJ. And I just think they had to be. Clinton was an enormously talented demagogue, and there were a lot of social programs that the Democrats put in, through at the time. You remember all the controversy of midnight basketball, organizing all this free stuff basically in the hood. And I remember the joke always being, I wonder if Bill Clinton would allow Chelsea to be out at midnight playing basketball, or did her, rear end have to be at home studying, and sleeping and getting ready for the next day so she could be a productive student at school. That's a lot of what the whole separate topic, but what the left does, how they view America, the country, okay, versus what they want for themselves. My patriotism, to be clear, is I want every person in this country to have great opportunity to do great things. I want every person to benefit and reap the rewards of America. But the rewards of America don't come in the form of a check. We're not an Indian sovereign nation with a casino. We don't just show up, prove we're here, have a heartbeat, and get money. Being American, the benefits of America is that you can actually make it here in a way that you can't other places. Some of you comment on how often this show is on the road. Well, it's a benefit. I'm very grateful. I have a tremendous opportunity to spend a fair amount of time abroad. And I talk to a lot of people, and I understand how some of these countries operate. Now, the Czech Republic, because it recovered from communism and went, to a open and free market, is beyond doubt a far more entrepreneurial country than, let's say, France, a country very beautiful, great people. Honestly, absolutely not anywhere near its potential because they practice socialism. The stuff that Zohran, the moron, Mamdani is proffering as the future of New York and perhaps of America has been tried. In France, it's easy to just get on welfare. It's actually, you basically do better on welfare than you do in entry-level work. A lot of young people just say, you know what, I'm not going to work. Why would I? I'll actually end up with less money in my pocket. And gradually, more and more people are added to the welfare rolls year after year as a percentage of the population continues to grow until it is this giant sagging lump weighing down the entire economy as people at the top who have the means to pay for it, who pay the taxes, which are astronomical, decide, you know what, that's not for me. I'm going to go move my business to Switzerland. I'm going to offshore my company in, the Isle of Man. I'm going to go take this company to Ireland. I'm going to move to the United States. If you have an employee in France, people don't realize this. You have an employee in France, and that employee makes 60,000 euros. Well, let's just say dollars, okay? Equivalent of $60,000 a year, okay? That employee costs the employer 2x. There is 100% payroll tax. So those of you who are business owners out there, imagine this. Every employee you have, whatever you're paying them, whatever they expect to make in salary, you are paying them double. Because you are literally sending one $60,000 annual check to your employee and one $60,000 annual check to the government. And then the employee gets that money and pays about 45% of it in taxes. So once you get over, let's say, $100,000, basically, the cost of an employee to a business, 75% of that money goes to the government. That is an unrecoverable death spiral. And then you sprinkle on top of it, a bunch of immigrants that hate your guts and want to turn your country into a caliphate. I think things are pretty much going as expected over there. Would you not say, President Macron? Sam Mirejovsky back after this.
The Salmon Ash team, they wanted me to have the best care. They had my interests at heart. I have an enormous amount of gratitude. I cannot say enough thank you.
Hi, welcome back. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840 KXNT. If you get into an accident, you get hurt, you have rights. Know what they are. That's the point of all of this talk about salmon ash. You don't want to go at it alone. Don't trust the insurance company. Don't go with whatever they tell you. It's always good to have the facts. 702-820-1234. Sam and Ash Injury Law. It's not like the other law firms. It's not some giant machine, out there with a bunch of crazy people running it. You got a great firm like family that will take care of you. And look, maybe all you need is a little bit of advice. That's what we give. We do it all the time. Talk people through, give them pointers, hear them out, listen to them, and point you in the right direction. 702-820-1234. In a crash, call Sam and Ash. 702-820-1234. Offices here in Las Vegas, Nevada, and in California as well. 702-820-1234, because you deserve what's right. So, friends, I'll tell you, I know I saw there's another lawsuit that just got filed. This activist judge is trying to use a little loophole that was identified by Samuel Alito, that instead of a universal injunction, that these judges could certify a class, basically a group of plaintiffs for a class action suit. They're going to do it improperly. That's what's going on here. It's also going to get struck down, but there's basically a demand that Trump open the border to asylum seekers. Can you imagine? Authority given to the executive branch of the government, exercised by the executive branch of the government, and the judge comes along and says, nah, I don't think so. I'm going to be the president now. This will prove, folks, to be the single most, when I say this, I mean Trump's immigration enforcement efforts will prove to be the single most consequential thing any president has done in my lifetime. This could be the saving grace of America. When I tell you about countries like France, think about all that legal and illegal immigration that comes there. Great Britain the same way. And when you put the welfare state on top of it, when you build your entire system to be one that benefits people for no work, and at the same time you start removing things like patriotism, in Great Britain, people waving the British flag, the Union Jack, have been arrested for causing offense to Islamic protesters in the streets. You can't do that. That's a symbol. That's upsetting to people. And under their existing hate crime speech rules, if you say something or do something that might cause offense subjectively to another person, that is grounds for arrest. It is astonishing. The left would do this here too. And these are incidentally, this is one of the things that's currently happening in the EU. This is crazy. There are significant efforts right now in the EU, and there's some new legislation that just came down where basically even American social media companies like X and Meta are now required to take down and police content that might be disturbing to people, and it's disinformation. It's the Digital Service Act. It's part of the Code of Conduct on Disinformation. DSA. Well, it's not the Democratic Socialists of America, but it's an absolute threat to free speech. But that's what they do. Under the guise of other people's feelings, under the pretense of policing what is true, what isn't true, and preventing the spread of misinformation. The bureaucrats of Europe, who are the same globalists that run the Democratic Party, back home here in the U.S., okay, These bureaucrats are in death throes. They are losing their grip on power the same way that the left is losing grip on power in the U.S. So what do they have? The one thing they have going for them is that there's no First Amendment anywhere in Europe. Enshrined in our Constitution is our absolute or near absolute liberty to speak freely and openly. The government can neither tell us what not to say, nor they coerce us to say any particular thing. This is an extremely powerful thing. So when you combine, let's go through it. When you combine the welfare state and you combine restrictions on speech, and then you combine mass immigration, whether it's legal or illegal, and you start pumping people in who you're bringing in with the dangled carrot. Oh, here's some goodies. Here's some goodies. Come into the U.S. We've got EBT cards. We've got Medicare. Ding, 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 ding. And then you go, oh, but Sam, you can't talk about it. That's hate speech. That's when your country starts to go in the toilet. Toxic stew, if you will. And that's precisely what they want. They want our country to go in the toilet. They want France to go in the. They don't want borders. They don't want nationalities. They don't want flags. Workers of the world unite. That is actually the slogan of the new globalists. Not enough is being said about this. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840, KXNT. Greetings, friends. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840 KXNT. I've had this clip here forever. I just have to play it for a moment and laugh and laugh and laugh at the left. Sometimes we do this, and in a moment of levity, I'm kind of going off on this patriotism thing and welfare and mass immigration and how it's all connected. But I have to tell you, some people on the left, not all of them, but some people on the left are mentally ill. And this clip went viral some time ago. I immediately sent it to Robbie, and I think maybe he sent it to me at the exact same time. We both saw it. We both laughed and cried, watched it 10, 20 times. Cannot stop watching this. This is obviously the best thing is that July 4th, tomorrow, is a palate cleanser for Pride Month. Now, Pride Month was a little womp-womp this year, not going to lie. Donaldus Maximus did not make Pride quite the thing that it normally is. But nonetheless, there were a handful of Pride gatherings. And here this woman is, well, I'll leave it to you to decide. Those of you watching can obviously see this. And she's getting interviewed. She's on Hollywood Boulevard, and she's got her golden retriever. This poor dog is with her. And anyway, I do actually have a serious point about this. Let me first play the clip. I'll describe to you, for those of you not watching, not with the Sam Cam, I'll tell you what's going on.
Hi! Can you tell me about your dog?
This is Honey.
Okay, so I'm stopping it. The dog looks kind of like a normal golden retriever here. She's standing in front of a Target. This person, place, or thing that has a Pride t-shirt, is wearing some kind of Doc Martin looking combat boots, Pride everything, right? Hair multicolored, glasses, theater kid that, graduated high school and hasn't done much since, putting off those vibes.
He is a gay, gender fluid, golden retriever Afghan hound mix.
Yes! How did you know that he was gay?
We have another dog named Charlie. He's about 7 years older than Honey, and they are completely inseparable.
Oh, hi! Happy Pride! Okay, well, that's the gossip.
How did you know that your dog was gay? Well, we have another dog, and it's a boy, and they just love hanging out with each other. Do you see where trans kids come from? I think I just said it on the radio. It's not real, folks. It's coming from the parents. And if it doesn't come from, look, no 3-year-old when you remember, like, you know, the parents that go, well, I knew he was trans. You know, I just knew he was trans. The kid's like 2.5 sitting there. That's not real. That is not real. That is the imagined inventions of the parent superimposing it on the kid. And I know it's not real because there's no such thing as a gender fluid, as a gay gender fluid Afghan hound mix. Hey, listen, if you believe in science, scour the science and tell me about that. Por favor. It will go down in history, folks, as one of the most evil things that we allowed to happen in our country, in the West. This idea that we allowed a mass psychosis of people to irreparably mangle, sterilize, and deform a generation of our youth. I know a guy here in Las Vegas, a fairly prominent person who can't touch the topic because, of course, he's got a trans kid. And one of the things that's, to me, I'm not going to mention who it is, obviously. I think I've already said enough. But one of the things that's, you know, I always want to ask is, well, you know, maybe your kid got a little bit confused because you got a divorce and hooked up with the much younger woman and left your family. And I start kind of going through the through the story of this particular person's life. And that's right. That's rough for kids. Divorce is terrible, particularly when dad gets up and goes. Now, I understand that there are plenty of teens and people and kids in their 20s, let's say early 20s, who, particularly girls, get caught up in this, who need attention, who don't want to just be cis, which I think means that you're just normal, right? Like, I'm a cis, straight white male. I'm glad I'm a Republican. I'm glad I'm a conservative talk show host. I would be nothing. I'd be dust if I was a Democrat. I have no clout. Robbie, you too. You're also a cis, straight white male. That ain't nothing. This is on the victim totem. You're like underground. You're like the like the concrete holding the post in. That's how they think. And the problem is that young people looking to find their place in life, and I'm hugely sympathetic to. I get it. I tell my kids all the time. You know, let me say this. A lot of adults will tell their kids, you know how hard it's to be an adult. All you have to do is go to school and get a good grade. And like, let me be honest with you. I tell my kids, I wouldn't want to go back and be in middle school for all the tea in China. I have no interest in any of that. Zippo. School was tough. Kids are mean. I'm a lawyer. I'm in a confrontational job. I'm a talk show host. You should see some of the emails I get. And yeah, I do. I love them, by the way. I'm just that kind of person. I love the hate mail. But I'm telling you, you absolutely have no idea how difficult it is to be a kid. You forget as an adult how bad it was. And so I tell my kids this all the time. I'm sympathetic to young people who are lost. I'm not mad at the kids. I'm mad at the freaking adults in the room who have children coming to them in obvious distress, and they see the ka-ching dollars like they did at Vanderbilt, where they literally held seminars and says, oh, we can get $40,000 for a top, and we can get $60,000 for a bottom, and we're just going to line these poor little kids up in this pediatric unit. There's no adults. It's all for kids. 40, 50, 60, commoditizing the butchery of our youth. I hope, I'm not totally, completely clear on the subject, if there's a hell or not. I hope there is a hell, just for the reason that every doctor, every parent, every psychologist that knowingly and willingly participated in this, that they end up there for eternity. And, this last election was pivotal in changing the course on this. And it's another, by the way, it's another example. It's another example of the left wanting victims, wanting people that are weak. On one hand, want immigrants that come to the country that take welfare right out the gate, get them dependent on the government. Here's a free 4-star hotel, whatever. And then they want people who are emotionally mangled and physically mangled and are angry at the world and have to cling to the false narrative that only the left will love them. Only the left was willing to stand up for their quote unquote right to destruct themselves. It honestly, it breaks me thinking about this. One of the detransitioners, Chloe Cole, talks about how her parents were lost in this. And there's, by the way, I think there's a lot of parents who just want the best for their kids and they're kind of dumb and, and they're like, I don't know. Okay, maybe this is a thing. I didn't know. I didn't grow up with this, but what do I know? And I'm trying to just do my best as a parent. They have a psychologist come and tell, well, this really is. And he really is, a girl, or she really is a boy. And that's, it's a thing. And we now know more than we used to. And parents accept that much in the same way. Well, we know more about heart disease now that we want, and we know more about cancer, and we know more about nutrition. And it's true, the food pyramid when I was growing up was nonsense, apparently. Maybe we'll change our mind on that too. But you can understand, I can at least sympathize with why some parents would go, I don't, maybe this is what my kid needs. And I certainly can understand where a parent who has been absent from the home and been a crap father, for example, whose kid then in the throes of puberty decides to go off, and I'm a girl. Dad, accept me. Dad's off doinking some, 22-year-old and okay, all right. Well, whatever you want. Yeah, okay. And then if a guy comes along like Donald Trump or Sam Mirejovsky or whoever, and Matt Walsh, and says, there's no such thing as this. I mean, there's autogynephilia, there's stuff, but this is just mass psychosis. That is a direct confrontation of that man's entire reality construct. If he admits to himself that there's no such thing as a trans kid, and his kid got mangled at the top and a bottom surgery, has some, Dr. Mengele, faux penis attached to her breasts were cut off, she's never going to be normal ever. And he went along with it just because, he felt guilty for whatever it was that he failed to do as a father. You can see why that person would get a little bit defensive when confronted about it. A lot of very defensive people out there. I'm just saying. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840 KXNT. The What's Right Show is brought to you by Sam & Ash Injury Law. In a crash, call Sam & Ash 702-820-1234 because you deserve what's right. Hi, welcome back. Sam Mirejovsky here behind the What's Right microphone. Sam at what'srightshow.com and at What's Right Sam on X, formerly known as Twitter. By the way, this thing about, I was not very specific, I hope, too specific about who I'm talking about. But people like the man that I am describing, the parent of a trans child, the parent who feels guilty about things that they have not done as a parent, not being present, abandoning the family, then goes along with the trans nonsense because, well, I'm going to support you now. does not want to hear from anybody that the thing was a farce. That person does not want to hear that it was that it wasn't real. You know what this reminds me of? I've had the opportunity now to have a couple of conversations, short and in, table setting with George W. Bush. And I'm just going to tell you, you start talking to Bush about Iraq, and he does not want to hear anything about anything having to do with Iraq and the war not being necessary. And I get it. I was telling somebody the story the other day. Sam, did you fight him? I'm like, I'm not gonna fight. First of all, he's a former president. Okay, I'm a lawyer and a talk show host. I know my place. Okay, I'm not that guy, and I'm also respectful of a appropriate setting. So, no. And second, I don't know if you've seen him paint the veterans. Have you seen George W. Bush? He's into painting now, become a painter. And his painting actually isn't all that bad. Okay? So I've seen the expedition. I've seen it now a number of times. Paintings are quite nice. So anyway, if you are a president and you send men and women into war and they come home dead or mangled, you never accept to yourself that the original reason for that war was foolish. If former President George W. Bush ever accepted to himself or said to himself, you know what? Shouldn't have done that, I think he would collapse as a human being. You would. And I think that's what we're going to be reckoning when it comes to this trans kid thing and these terrible surgeries that are quickly getting shut down. Been in the news this week, right? Big news. Stanford voluntarily shutting down. This is because the Trump administration is really going after these people. And I'm excited as an attorney. Side note, as a personal injury lawyer, I'm actively looking for these cases and the right plaintiffs. Because I think what was done to these kids, to these families, is horrific. Absolutely horrific. And I think that this is these are batteries, okay? Assault and batteries, basically. Like, this is not medical malpractice. This is really a fraudulent medicine. So and it was done for profit. But I can see that parents wouldn't want to accept that that this wasn't real, and so there will be this community of people that maintain the delusion for purposes of self-preservation. Folks, I'm just explaining it to you, and we're gonna have it's gonna be rough because we're the balloon, the crazy kid trans balloon is coming down to earth. The helium in it is weakening, and it's, and it was way up there super high, 4 years ago. And now it's just, people are realizing that this is just a disaster. Liberals are coming out after this. By the way, you know what's crazy? There's a great book about this. I think, was it Helen Joyce? The book is called Trans. I think it's Helen Joyce. Robbie, let's look it up. I just want to make sure I've got the name right. So anyway, this book, I mean, she's not a crazy right winger. Yes, Helen Joyce. Thank you, Robbie. Yeah. And she's not a crazy right winger. Far from it. I mean, she's a work economist, an editor in Great Britain. She's she's a numbers person, yes, but kind of a left of center person. Anyway, she writes the definitive book on that's really kind of burst the bubble. And the book is Trans. Gender identity and the new battle for women's rights. I would absolutely encourage any of you that are interested in this topic to read it. It's absolutely, it's very sad. It's eye-opening, but being at the, you got to understand, you're going to get people, if you talk to people about it, some people are just, they don't see it at all. They refuse to see it. So this 4th of July, one thing I love is that this is the holiday that people take down the trans flags. Well, they don't, not the less, but all Pride Month, during the Biden years, it was trans flags. The White House was covered in color and just, and people getting naked on the White House lawn, and this was debauchery. Okay. 4th of July, American flags come out. We have barbecues. We get together. There's no obligation other than to celebrate the birthplace of the greatest country in the world. And I'm just going to finish it with this. I look at this country and go back, the last 4 years under Biden were not easy. I'm literally watching this child trans butchery happen. I'm watching our border getting, every Border Patrol agent getting a stand-down order and the gates getting flung open. I'm watching our country plunging into debt, spending money, giving out free money like it's going out of style, bending the knee to Iran and every other despicable world actor. But at no point did I think to myself, I don't love this country anymore. Our politicians are fallible, but America is a great country and she can do no wrong. And what you and I have to do is we have to keep the eternal flame lit of this liberty that we enjoy, of the greatness and really truly greatness that this country has built, not just at its founding, but has continued to build over the years, and recognize that the left can't destroy this. The left can't destroy any of this if we don't allow it. And that is what this year so far has been with our new president and what needs to be for the remainder of 3.5 years of his term. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840, KXNT.